Hey, welcome back everyone. So first off, I want to apologize and say I'm sorry it's been so long since I brought you some new content, but I'm back, kinda, sorta. I'm gonna try to be. And I thought, what better way to come back than just show you what I'm working on and talk a little bit about foreshortening. Yes, that elusive, crazy topic. Oh, I got some little overlays here going. That always throws us for a loop, right? Foreshortening is kind of a tricky thing. So I'll show you how I work through this. I'm trying to find the right layer here. I want to get rid of that start of that background. I don't know if I'm going to use it. So what I'm going to do is cut it. Actually, I'm just going to cut through here. Command X, Command B, Command D to deselect, and there we go. Okay, so yeah, I love foreshortening. I don't always get it right. I don't know. I don't know if there's any such thing as right. I don't think this looks right, honestly, but I think it's doable. I like it, so I'm going to say it's right. But could it be better? Of course. But I'm going to give you some tips on how to achieve it. One of the things that I really like to do with foreshortening is I will start with a gesture or quick hand drawing like this. Okay, so that's what I think I remember doing here. Or I know I did there. It's sort of what I do each time. And so I'll just sketch it in like this. Sometimes it'll be a really bad couple of fingers, but I'm not looking for like extreme clarity here. I really want size representation, right? Something like that. And then what I do is I work back and I throw in a couple shapes. And so, and I think I sort of made the mistake that I want to point out here, hopefully you'll avoid, is that you should never stack the limbs of any part of the body. You know, like, so when I say limbs, appendages, whatever, like the shoulder, upper arm, forearm, hand, right? To me, those are all pieces. And when you stack them, you get this kind of look, right? Even if you change the shapes appropriately. So, you know, inside to outside shapes, you know, medial of the arm shouldn't match lateral, right? So you change the inside to the outside. Shoulder, same thing. It's more angular on the outside, maybe a little smoother on the inside, whatever. So you make sure to change all that, but it's still too aligned piece by piece. You can get a little bit more out of it, or I would say probably a considerable more out of it if you think of these in terms of, so you got the forearm, inside doesn't match the outside, boom, we got that somewhat there. And we think about how the arm would actually, like try to straighten your arm as much as you can. You can't really straighten it all that much. Like you can, but it's not as straight as you might consider it. Not as straight as you might try to draw it. Let's put it that way. So there's a very big difference from what we think in terms of when we're illustrating. We have the ability to draw whatever, right? But then when we think about functionality, that changes. So let's say something like this. And so now trying to get the feeling that the shoulder is connecting, you know, sideways like this, not parallel to each other segment of the arm, right? The orientation of these all need to stagger just a little bit. And I don't know that I'm getting it right here, and I'm definitely losing some of the foreshortening that I was after. So another way we can bring that foreshortening back is we think about, wrong selection tool, we think about taking these forms and really pushing them back behind that upper arm. In whatever way you need to. You can grab them, move them around, literally pull them behind the other one, if that works. A lot of times you need that sort of relationship. So whenever you're trying to foreshorten, a lot of times you need some sort of relationship to the next segmentation. Even if there's an overlap of the anatomy, you can't really go too far right through here without a relationship of the next set of shapes, or else it looks disjointed. It's almost like you're delineating the areas too much or something like that. Like, you can pull it off a bit, and I think with really stylistic adaptions, you can do, you can take the glove, you can do whatever you want. But anyways, that's just I don't know. I always struggle here because I'm like, this is how it is. Well, no, this is how I do it. Let's just put it that way. This is how I think about it. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's always open to interpretation, and you can always tell me I'm just way off the mark. That's fine. I'm okay with that. So there we go. So that's how I would work through or problem solving a little bit. And I'd probably start looking and go, I don't know, would you see the elbow there? I don't think you would. So then I start doing stuff like that, like trying to perceive and imagine where certain things would be visible. Another thing that I try to always point out to people is you really want to look for these opportunities to push the overlaps this way, like that. Look, I'm still kind of working on this way because I feel like the deltoid does drop down far enough where it would come back at us. But if you think about foreshortening in pretty extreme instances, everything really does become a top and away kind of curve. So this might be wrong. Again, this is all just thought process stuff. It's not like, do it my way. I know what I'm talking about. But I really do like the approach of starting with a big shape and then working back. I feel like it just simplifies the process. And I'm always going to shout out to people like Todd McFarlane, who's shared great tutorials over the years. And one of the ones that he showed is he would just sort of throw in a foot and then kind of work back. So that's probably where I got it. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that's where I got it. And so, just put a big foot in there, bottom plane change of the foot, and then work back. This is supposed to be the knee right here. And just throw in some overlapping shapes. Inner leg, I would say, would be a little bit lower. Like that. And that's gives you this sort of imagined foreshortening, right? A crotch shot, it's always nice to throw in your books. But that's really what I did to do that. And that's it. And then I think I started with this one, and then it becomes a lot easier to take the other one and say, okay, like I could have really made a little tiny foot right here, right? And that's going to really push that feeling of foreshortening. So it all just sort of relates from one point to another of, start big, work back, if that helps you. And then you can sort of go back and forth and say, okay, what if I made this hand larger? Like now it becomes very easy for me to select this and make this huge hand. And really, it's not that far off of the realm of plausibility or believability or whatever however you say that. It's because if you look at foreshortened poses, especially when they have that, the camera effect, you're taking shots with your phones or whatever, a little selfie, you see that your hand gets just massive, right? It's like dwarfs everything else in the shot. Not in every foreshortened shot, but it does tend to happen. So I would think that a lot of times we're really not pushing foreshortening nearly as much as we could. And so we just play around with that. I could take that foot and make it a lot bigger like I did here. And then the other thing to consider is that as you push these overlaps more to the side, so if you notice this arm back here is more parallel, right? Then I'm just going to draw it almost like a traditional arm, but I'm just going to make sure that the overlaps work back towards, they recede away from us like this. That's all that is. So it's a repetitive sort of thing. I mean, I might break the rule here and there, but it's very rare. And again, I'm 99% sure I got that from a McFarlane video. And another thing that he said that I'm just going to rip off his whole video, I guess, now that I'm here doing it, is that it was like really pay attention to the ability to bring things in front of one another as much as possible. And he mentioned that each point of articulation, so if you take a finger, so you got a knuckle, and you got the next knuckle, and the next knuckle, and the sharp claws or whatever, since we're doing a symbiote type character here, each one of these little points of articulation become an opportunity to create depth and dimension in the illustration. And so I don't know, I'll have to find that video and link to it, because that was like, wow, that does, it almost makes you feel like there's just so much you're missing out on by not doing that. And then you start realizing there's tons of points of articulation. And then with a character like Spider-Man or any of the Spidey characters, you can really take advantage of that. So I always think of foreshortening when drawing these characters. But that's really it. I just wanted to give you some tips on it, show you where I'm at. Also apologizing for not making enough content for you. I want to rededicate the new year. Happy 2026 to everybody. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you don't mind. As always, keep drawing, keep having fun, and bye for now.